Good afternoon, and let's do some math. So today we're going to go over checkpoint 2.1.2. This checkpoint is all about multi-step equations. Hopefully there's some review in here for you. So our first type of problem is a simple two-step equation. The two-step equation is that we're starting with is negative 2x plus 18 equal to 24. What I like to tell my students when they're doing this is your goal is to get x alone. To do that, I like to start with what is furthest away from that x, which in this case is the plus 18, because that negative 2 is attached to my x. They're too close for me to be able to deal with. So I like to do my opposite action. If I see a plus 18, anytime you move to the other side of this equal sign, you got to do the opposite. So the opposite of plus 18 will be minus 18 to both sides. So I get 2x, negative 2x, equal to 24 minus 18, because these 18s have canceled, which will leave me with 6. When you see a number written in front of your x, you should be thinking that's multiplication. You're going to see that throughout most of these problems. What that tells me is I need to do the opposite action to get to the other side. The opposite action will be division. If I do it to one side of my equal sign, I do it to the other. So my negative 2's cancel. And x will equal negative 3. And that's my final answer. Most of these problems you're going to see are going to come back to this. This is a two-step equation. So no matter how complicated they appear, this is our goal. So my next problem. I see this 3x plus 2 plus 9 equal to 10 minus 14. Well, what I want to do here is to try to simplify this because there's just too much happening. So what I personally see is that I have the 3x plus the 2x. Why have two separate x's? Bring them together. So 3 plus 2 is 5x. Right now, I want to kind of divide across my equal sign. So that plus 9 has nothing on the same side with it. It's kind of alone. So I'm just going to write my plus 9 and put in my equal sign. Now that 10 and 14, they're both on the right side, so I can combine them together. So I would do 10 minus 14, which gives me negative 4. At this point, you should notice you're back to this kind of two-step equation situation, right? Where you have two things over here and one on the other side. Oh, sorry, that's a plus 9. So now we're going to do the same steps we did over here. Because this was a positive 18, I subtracted 18. Well, this is a positive 9, so I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. That means I bring down my 5x, my 9's have canceled, and I'm going to do negative 4 minus 9. If you need it, use the calculator, but that is negative 13. From there, I'm going to go ahead and divide by 5. So x will equal, these 5's cancel, and apex will have some, but they will just leave it as fractions. You could also make this into a decimal. It kind of depends on what the multiple choice answers would be in a quiz. But we're going to leave it as a fraction because that's how apex left it when I observed it. So negative 13 over 5 is our answer there. For number 3 here, we have these parentheses. They're complicating my situation and I just don't want to have to do it. So I'm going to use distribution. What distribution means is that 6 on the outside goes to both pieces on the inside. So I'm going to do 6 times x, which is 6x, and 6 times 2, which is 12, equal to that 42. Once I've done that distribution, guess what? I'm back to that two-step equation. I saw plus 18, I saw plus 9, now I see plus 12. The opposite of plus 12 is to subtract 12 from both sides. So that gives me 6x, 12's have canceled, equals 30. Now, just like my 5 and just like my -2, I have division happening, or multiplication happening. So I've got to use the opposite action of division. Those 6's canceled, which gets my x all by itself, and 30 divided by 6 is a nice round 5. Hopefully we're starting to get the hang of this. The next one, anytime you see parentheses, start with the parentheses. Do that distribution. 5 and the 2, or the x and the 2. 5 times x is 5x plus 10 plus that 3x, because he's hanging out here, so we're just rewriting this, is equal to 29. Well, now I have a similar situation that I had in 2, right? Where I have x's together on the same side. So again, before doing anything else, simplify. I want it to look like that two-step equation. So I get 8x plus 10 equal to 29. We're back to that two-step equation. Opposite of plus 10 is to subtract 10. And that leaves me with 8x, because my 10's have canceled, equal to 19. And I'm going to divide both sides by 8. My 8's have canceled, and x will equal 19 over 8 as my final answer. Again, some of these are just going to end in fractions. Apex could have answer choices in decimals. It really depends on the question with Apex. Another one, parenthesis. I see parenthesis. I think let's do distribution. So I'm going to distribute my 7 to both the 14 and the -x. Make sure you don't drop that negative. So 14 times 7 is 98, and 7 times -1 will give me -7x, equals that 3x plus 18. This one is a little different because I have x's on both sides of this equal side. So I have both that -7 and the 3x. What I would recommend is to start with your x's, and if possible, because to go to the other side you have to change the sign, I would move the negative. So what I mean by that is I see this as -7. To move this over here, I'm going to have to add 7x to both sides. That means if I hate dealing with negatives, it's now a positive. Also notice that I'm only adding the x's to the x's, so that 98 is untouched. -7 plus 7, guess what? They cancel. So 98 equals 3x plus 7, which is 10x, plus 18. So what I've done there is I've just moved my x over. So again, anytime you're changing from one side of the equal to the other, make sure you do opposite action. And now I have a two-step equation. Just like I subtracted 10 here and subtracted the 18, this is a positive 18. So let's bring it over to our 98 by doing the opposite action. Goes away. I get 10x over here equal to 80. Sweet. And then my last step, just like here, when I have multiplication, so this is multiplied by 10x, I'm going to divide it out. So x equals 8 as my final answer. And this one, we're almost there, guys. I promise, a little long, but hopefully this helps you kind of guide yourself through these. What I notice here is that on the left side, I have both x and -4x. Because they're on the same side, I'm going to start with combining them. So x minus 4x is -3x. That 7 in the middle here, he's still hanging on, so plus 7x equals 19 minus 2x. Now what you'll notice is I have an x over here and an x over here. So before I move on, I want to combine those. Again, my recommendation would be look at which one of them is a bigger negative. So I have -3 and -2. If I add 3x to both sides, what's going to happen is I'll get rid of the negative. So if you hate dealing with negatives, it's my recommendation to add the bigger number. So -3x plus 3x, bye-bye. And I get 7 equal to the 19. And I have -2 plus 3x. So 3 minus 2 would give me just a plus x. And I'm almost done with this problem. When I have a positive 19, to get it to the other side, I subtract it. So that is x equal to -12. And in this situation, there's nothing attached to my x, so I'm just done here. So when solving an equation, what you really want to look for is do the opposite action to get to the other side, look for what you can combine, and do any distribution. Number 7 here, I went ahead and filled out. So this is our original equation, right? The first thing they did was, because there was a parenthesis, they distributed the 3 through. So you have 3x, and then 3 times 2 is 6. So that's distribution. The next thing you can see that they did is they subtracted 2x from both sides. So again, there's a balance. It's happening on both sides. Then they went ahead and simplified that, or simplification. So 3x minus 2x is just x, and then these two would have canceled. So that's how they got the 6x. X plus 6 equals 3. Finally, they're subtracting again. You can see they're subtracting -6 from both sides, which when you simplify, those would cancel, and you get 3 minus 6, which is -3. The next problems are asking about the number of solutions. You might see these on your quiz. Everything we've done so far has had one solution. So -3 was the solution, -13/5, and so on. To figure out how many solutions it has, you need to kind of solve out the problem. So let's start by solving. We have 2x plus 5, and I'm going to do this distribution here. So 2x plus 6. What I want to do now is get my x's together, right? It really seems to not matter which one, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2x from over here to try to get rid of that x. If I do it to one side, I do it to the other. Well, 2 minus 2 is 0. That means I'm left with 5 over here. And 2 minus 2 is also 0, which means I'm left with 6 over here. So the question is, does 5 equal 6? And I assume most of you know you'd rather have $6 than $5. So no, these aren't equal. What that means is there is no solution to this problem. So if you get a situation like this where you have two numbers that just don't equal each other, there's no solution. Okay? So again, if they end up with two numbers that are not equal, that's no solution. If you end up with something where x equals a number, that's one solution. The next one is another example of this. So 3x plus 21, do that distribution. So that's 3x plus 21. And let's go ahead and subtract 3x from both sides. Well, once again, that cancels and that cancels, and I have 21 equals 21. That is true. When you have two numbers equaling each other, this is an infinite number of solutions. So it doesn't matter what you put in for x, these two are going to be equal. So if the number is the same on both sides, it's infinite. If the number is different on both sides, it's no solution. And if x equals a number, it is one solution. Okay? And our final problem is a nice word problem, which I know is everyone's favorite. But we'll piece through these. You might see some. Just take your time and think it through. So Leah purchased 3 mechanical pencils. 3 mechanical pencils, probably important. And a notebook that cost $5. Okay? Her purchase totaled $11. How much was each pencil? Let P represent the pencils. All right, so P is my pencil. What do I know about pencils? Well, I know pencils that she purchased 3 of them. So there were 3 pencils. Okay? So you have that P for a variable connected to whatever it's talking about. I also know that in total she spent 11 bucks. All right, well that's pretty easy. I know something about 11, I can do that. And the last part is the notebook. She only bought 1 notebook, which means she spent $5 on it. So I know in total she spent $5 and then was also able to get 3 pencils. And I want to be able to solve for my number of pencils. Well, it's a 2-step equation. I'm going to subtract out my 5 first. So I have 3 pencils, right? They're hanging out there. And I want to remove the cost of that notebook because I care about the cost of the pencils. So let's get rid of it by subtracting to both sides. 11 minus 5 is going to give me 6. Okay? Well, now I want to divide it out, and I'm going to do 3 divided by 6. So pencils will equal 2, which means each pencil costs $2, which is too expensive for pencils. Don't go with that deal. But that is our information for 2.1.2. If you have any questions, feel free to email me.